The moment you become too easy to access, people stop treating you like a priority. I know this might feel uncomfortable to hear, especially if you've been raised to be kind, to be helpful, to always show up with a smile even when your heart is tired. You were told that being nice would open doors, that being available would build love, that giving more would earn respect. But somewhere along the way, you started feeling invisible, taken for granted, overlooked, and you quietly wondered, why do I give so much and still feel so small? If that's you, listen closely. This message is for your next level. When I say kindness is powerful but unlimited availability is not, I'm not asking you to become cold. I'm asking you to become conscious. There is a quiet difference between giving from abundance and giving from fear. Most people never learn to tell the two apart. They believe that the more they give, the more loved they'll be. The more reachable they are, the more valuable they'll seem. But life doesn't work that way. Energy doesn't work that way. Respect doesn't work that way. Kindness is intentional, it's grounded, it has a center. Availability without limits is scattered, it leaks. And when your energy leaks, people don't see your heart, they just see access. Think about the moments when you answered the phone even though your soul was tired. When you said yes even though your body was asking for rest. When you showed up smiling while something inside you was quietly breaking. You told yourself, it's okay, I can handle it. But what you were really saying was, my needs can wait. Over time, that message doesn't just reach you, it reaches the world. People don't wake up one day and decide to take advantage of you. They simply respond to the pattern you've shown them. If you are always there, always ready, always sacrificing, your presence starts to feel like background noise. Not because you aren't valuable, but because you never taught anyone how to value you. Even a priceless thing loses its impact when it's treated like it's unlimited. Imagine a well in the middle of a village. Everyone comes to it every day. They drink, they fill their containers, they survive because of it. But no one checks how deep it is. No one asks if it needs time to refill. And one day the water is gone. Not because the well was weak, but because it was never protected. That is what happens when you give without boundaries. You don't burn out suddenly. You dry out slowly, quietly, while still smiling. Guarding your energy doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sustainable. And sustainability is a form of wisdom. You are not meant to be accessible to every demand, every emotion, every crisis that knocks on your door. You are meant to choose. Choice is where power lives. The moment you realize that your time is sacred, your presence becomes meaningful. Because now when you show up, it's intentional, it's real, it's full. There's a fear many of us carry, that if we stop being available, we'll be forgotten, replaced, left behind. But the truth is gentler and stronger than that. What is meant for you will not require you to disappear to be loved. What values you will adjust, not demand. And what only wants access will resist the moment you create space. Let that resistance teach you something. When you start protecting your energy, something uncomfortable happens at first. People notice, some question you, some pull away, some try to guilt you back into the old version of yourself. Stay steady. You are not changing because you are less loving. You are changing because you are learning how to love yourself without conditions. That kind of love doesn't shout. It stands firm. You don't need to announce your boundaries. You don't need to justify them with long explanations. A calm, I can't right now, is enough. A delayed response is enough. Rest is enough. When you stop giving people unlimited access, you give your life room to breathe. And in that space, clarity grows. Strength grows. Peace grows. Kindness rooted in self-respect feels different. It doesn't leave you resentful. It doesn't leave you empty. It doesn't ask for applause. It flows when it's right and pauses when it's not. That is mature kindness, the kind that lasts, the kind that commands quiet respect. You were never meant to be everything for everyone. You were meant to be whole for yourself first, and from that wholeness give, not because you're afraid to lose love, but because you have love to share. What is always available slowly loses its weight, not because it isn't meaningful, but because the human mind stops noticing what it never has to earn. This is a difficult truth, especially for people who lead with their heart. You show up early, you stay late, you respond fast, you forgive quickly, you think consistency will be rewarded. But consistency without boundaries quietly teaches people that your presence costs nothing. And when something costs nothing, it is handled carelessly. Familiarity can be beautiful. It creates comfort, safety, closeness. But familiarity without boundaries crosses a line. It turns warmth into expectation. It turns generosity into obligation. And one day, you realize people don't ask how you're doing anymore. They just assume you'll be there, that you'll adjust, that you'll understand, that you'll carry it. Think about how we treat things that matter. We protect them. We schedule time for them. We prepare ourselves before engaging with them. We don't rush into sacred spaces. We enter with awareness. Your time, your emotional presence, your availability, these are sacred spaces. When you leave the door wide open at all times, people walk in without noticing where they are. Not because they are bad, but because you never showed them that it mattered. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you shrink the value of your yes. Every time you ignore your own discomfort to keep the peace, you teach people that your comfort is optional. Over time, this doesn't just affect how others treat you. It affects how you treat yourself. You start doubting your instincts. You start questioning your needs. You start feeling guilty for wanting space. That guilt is a signal. It's telling you something is out of balance. Boundaries are not rejection. They are instruction. They teach people how to engage with you. They show where respect begins. When you say, "This matters to me," without raising your voice, without anger, without apology, something shifts. The world recalibrates. The people who care will adjust. The people who only benefited from your lack of limits will resist. And that resistance is clarity. A door with no lock isn't welcoming. It's unprotected. Boundaries are not walls built out of fear. They are doors built out of self-awareness. You decide when to open them. You decide how long someone stays. You decide when it's time to close them and rest. That choice is power. Quiet power. The kind that doesn't need permission. There's a myth that being low maintenance makes you lovable. That being easy makes you desirable. But ease without self-respect invites carelessness. When you stop immediately answering every call, when you stop explaining every absence, when you stop bending every time someone pushes, people feel the shift. They may not say it out loud, but they sense it. Your presence feels intentional now. Your words carry more weight. Your absence is noticed, at first holding bound. Aries can feel lonely. You're no longer constantly surrounded. You're no longer needed in the same way. But what you gain is depth. The connections that remain are clearer, cleaner, more honest. You stop performing for closeness and start experiencing real connection. And that kind of connection doesn't drain you. It nourishes you. You don't need to disappear to be respected. You need to be defined. Defined in what you allow, defined in how you respond, defined in what you tolerate and what you don't. People learn quickly when patterns change, and when your pattern becomes grounded instead of reactive, calm instead of overgiving, steady instead of always available, respect follows naturally. You are not here to be consumed, you are here to be experienced. And experiences that matter are never rushed, never careless, never taken lightly. When you honor your limits, you give others the chance to honor you too. Sometimes the hardest truth to accept is that what we call generosity is actually survival. We learn early on that being needed feels like being safe, that being helpful keeps us close to people, that if we give enough, do enough, carry enough, we won't be abandoned. So we overextend, we overfunction, we become the one who fixes, soothes, explains, absorbs. And the world applauds it. They call you kind, they call you strong, they call you selfless. But no one asks what it costs you. Overgiving rarely begins as love. It begins as fear dressed up as virtue. Fear of being replaced, fear of disappointing, fear of being seen as difficult. So you offer more than is asked. You stay longer than is healthy. You forgive faster than you're healed. You say, it's okay when it's not. And slowly, you disappear behind your usefulness. If you've ever felt exhausted but guilty for resting, if you've ever felt resentful but ashamed to admit it, if you've ever felt empty even when idle doing good, that's not because you're ungrateful. That's because your giving has lost its roots. Healthy giving flows outward. Overgiving bleeds inward. It pulls from places that were meant to nourish you, not be drained. And here's the quiet danger. When you give from fear, you train your nervous system to believe love must be earned through sacrifice. That belief doesn't just affect relationships, it shapes your identity. You start to confuse being needed with being valued. You confuse attention with connection. You confuse exhaustion with purpose. And the moment you try to stop, something inside you panics, because now you're not sure who you are without the giving. That panic isn't weakness, it's conditioning. It's the echo of moments when love felt conditional, when approval felt fragile, when you learned that being low maintenance kept you safe. But listen closely. Love that only stays when you overextend was never love. It was dependency. And dependency always asks for more while giving less. It doesn't pause when you're tired. It doesn't notice when you're hurting. It just waits for you to show up again. There is nothing noble about abandoning yourself. There is nothing holy about depletion. True generosity has a foundation. It has breadth. It has balance. You cannot pour from a place that is constantly ignored. Eventually, even the purest intentions turn into resentment. And resentment is a signal, not a failure. It's your soul asking to be included. The moment you begin to slow your giving, you'll notice who becomes uncomfortable. Some people will feel confused. Some will feel entitled to explanations. Some will accuse you of changing. Let them talk. Growth always looks like betrayal to people who benefited from your silence. That doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something different. You are allowed to give without losing. Be yourself. You are allowed to help without harming your peace. You are allowed to love without proving your worth. The shift happens when you ask one simple question before you say yes. Am I giving from fullness or fear? That question will change your life. When you begin to choose yourself, your giving becomes clean. It has no hidden expectations, no quiet bitterness, no exhaustion attached. You give because you want to, not because you're afraid of what will happen if you don't. And that kind of giving feels lighter, freer, stronger. You don't need to be everything to be enough. You don't need to perform to be loved. You don't need to disappear to belong. The most powerful thing you can do is allow yourself to receive the same care you give so easily to others. Rest without guilt, space without apology, boundaries without explanation. That is not selfishness, that is healing. When your giving comes from a healed place, it no longer empties you, it expands you. And the right people, the ones meant to walk with you, will feel the difference. They won't take more. They'll meet you there. There is a quiet strength in silence that most people never learn to trust. We grow up believing that if we don't explain ourselves, we'll be misunderstood. That if we don't defend our choices, we'll be judged. That if we don't speak up immediately, we'll lose control of the story. So we talk, we justify, we over-explain, we fill every pause with words, hoping clarity will protect us. But clarity doesn't come from noise. It comes from alignment. Silence is not weakness, it's restraint. And restraint is one of the highest forms of self-respect. Think about how often you felt the urge to explain a decision that already felt right in your body. You weren't confused, you were just uncomfortable with someone else's reaction. So you softened your tone, you added reasons, you tried tea. Or make your boundaries sound reasonable enough to be accepted. But boundaries are not negotiations. They are statements. And the more you explain them, the more you teach people that your limits are flexible if they push hard enough. When you stop over-explaining, something unexpected happens. The world gets quieter. The unnecessary conversations fall away. The emotional debates you were never meant to participate in end before they begin. And in that quiet, you start to hear yourself again, your intuition, your needs, your truth. Silence doesn't mean you disappear, it means you choose when to speak. It means your words have intention instead of urgency. People who are secure don't rush to be understood. They trust that what is meant for them will find them without performance. They know that not everyone needs an explanation, especially those who have already decided how they want to see you. There's a difference between communication and justification. Communication connects, justification pleads. And the moment you feel yourself pleading, pause. Ask yourself who you're trying to convince. If it's someone who doesn't respect your no amount of words will change that. Silence also protects your growth. Not everyone deserves to witness your becoming. Some people only know how to relate to the version of you that was smaller, quieter, more accommodating. When you change, they feel unsettled. They ask questions that sound like concern but feel like control. You don't owe them access to your process. Growth is sacred. It needs space. It needs privacy. It needs time. When you move in silence, your confidence deepens. You stop outsourcing validation. You stop measuring yourself through other people's reactions. You become grounded. And grounded people don't rush. They don't argue. They don't chase understanding. They stand still in their truth and let the world adjust. There will be moments when silence feels lonely. When you want to explain yourself just to feel seen. That's when faith steps in. Faith in yourself. Faith that your integrity speaks louder than your defense. Faith that what's real doesn't need constant proof. Silence teaches you to sit with discomfort without betraying yourself to escape it. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. The people who respect you the most are watching how you handle silence. They notice when you don't react emotionally, when you don't rush to respond, when you don't let every comment pull you off center. That composure builds authority, not the loud kind, the lasting kind. Silence creates boundaries without confrontation. It says, I'm not available for this without saying a word. It says, I trust myself without an explanation. It says, I know who I am without debate. And people feel that. They may not understand it, but they respect it. You don't need to win every conversation. You don't need to correct every misunderstanding. You don't need to prove your intentions to people committed to misunderstanding you. Peace doesn't come from being heard by everyone. It comes from honoring yourself consistently. When you choose silence, where you once chose explanation, you reclaim energy, you reclaim time, you reclaim dignity. And slowly, the world begins to meet you differently. Conversations become more intentional. Relationships become clearer. Your presence becomes calmer, stronger. Silence is not absence. It is presence without performance. And when you learn to hold it with grace, you stop reacting to life and start leading it. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize that growth creates distance. Not because you are leaving people behind, but because you are no longer standing where you once were. And that realization can feel heavy. Because the old version of you was familiar, predictable, easy to access. That version bent, waited, tolerated, and stayed quiet just to keep connections intact. But growth doesn't ask for comfort, it asks for courage. Not everyone deserves the old version of you, and that is not arrogance. That is awareness. The old version of you did the best they could with what they knew at the time. They loved deeply, they trusted easily, they gave generously. They stayed longer than they should have because they believed loyalty meant endurance. That version was learning. And learning sometimes looks like overgiving, oversharing, and overstaying. There is no shame in that. But there is danger in staying there forever. When you grow, something shifts. You begin to notice what drains you. You start recognizing patterns that once felt normal but now feel heavy. You become aware of how much of yourself you are giving away just to keep others comfortable. And with that awareness comes choice. Choice to respond differently. Choice to step back. Choice to say, this no longer fits me. That choice will confuse people who only knew the old you. Some will say you've changed, as if growth is a betrayal, as if you were meant to stay small so they could stay comfortable. But the truth is, the old version of you was not the final draft. It was a chapter, a necessary one. But chapters are meant to turn. The hardest part of growth is realizing that some people don't miss you. They miss the access they had to you. They miss how available you were, how forgiving, how quiet, how easy it was to cross your boundaries without consequence. And when that access ends, they call it distance, they call it coldness, they call it ego. Let them. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Growth requires release. Release of old roles, old expectations, old agreements you never consciously signed but somehow lived by. You are allowed to outgrow dynamics that no longer honor you. You are allowed to step away from conversations that feel familiar but unfulfilling. You are allowed to protect the version of you that is becoming stronger, calmer, clearer. There is grief in this process. Don't ignore it. Grieve the connections that couldn't grow with you. Grieve the parts of yourself that stayed too long. Grieve the hope that some people would change if you loved them harder. Grief doesn't mean you're going backward. It means you cared. And caring is not a weakness. But don't let grief turn into guilt. You are not responsible for carrying people into your future who refuse to respect your present. The new version of you requires space, it requires honesty, it requires alignment, and not everyone is willing to meet you there. The beautiful thing is when you stop offering the old version of yourself, you make room for new connections, Healthier ones, quieter ones, relationships that don't demand performance. People who don't need you to be exhausted to feel close to you. People who respect your pace, your boundaries, your silence. You don't owe anyone consistency at the cost of your growth. You owe yourself integrity. Integrity to who you are becoming. Integrity to the lessons you've learned. Integrity to the peace you've worked so hard to build. There will be moments when you're tempted to go back, to soften your edges, to explain yourself, to return to what was familiar just to avoid the discomfort of being misunderstood. Pause in those moments. Remember why you grew. Remember how much it cost you to become this version of yourself. And honor that journey. The old version of you opened the door. The new version of you decides who stays. And that is not rejection. That is evolution. Respect is never something you can beg for, negotiate for, or force out of someone. The moment you try, you lose it. Real respect is quiet. It arrives on its own when your life, your choices, and your standards begin to speak for you. That's why the most powerful people in any room are rarely the loudest. They don't demand attention, they command presence. Many people spend years asking for respect without realizing they're giving away the very thing that creates it. They argue, they explain, they react emotionally, they tolerate behavior they don't agree with just to keep peace. And then they wonder why their words don't land, why their boundaries aren't taken seriously, why people keep crossing lines they've already drawn. Respect is not attracted to noise, it's attracted to consistency. The moment you stop reacting to everything, people start watching you more closely. When you don't jump into every disagreement, your silence gains weight. When you don't chase validation, your confidence becomes visible. When you don't lower your standards to keep people close, your presence feels earned, and that's when respect enters the room. Standards are invisible contracts you make with yourself. They decide what you allow, what you tolerate, and what you walk away from. And here's the truth most people avoid. You don't teach people your standards by talking about them. You teach them by enforcing them. Calmly, repeatedly, without drama. You don't need to raise your voice to raise your value. You don't need anger to be taken seriously. You don't need to explain yourself into exhaustion. When someone sees that you are willing to lose access rather than lose yourself, something shifts. Even if they don't like it, even if they don't agree with it, they feel it. Because that kind of self-respect is rare. And rare things are respected. Some people confuse respect with fear. They think being harsh, intimidating, or emotionally distant creates authority. It doesn't. It creates distance. Real respect comes from clarity, from knowing where you stand and not moving every time someone tests you. And people will test you, not because they're cruel, but because boundaries reveal character, theirs and yours. The first time you enforce a standard, it will feel uncomfortable. Your heart may race, your hands may shake. You may feel guilty for choosing yourself. That guilt is old programming leaving your body. Let it pass. You are not doing anything wrong. You are doing something new. You don't need to cut people off dramatically to earn respect. Sometimes respect is built in quiet ways. By not responding immediately, by saying that doesn't work for me and meaning it, by removing yourself from spaces that require you to perform instead of be present, by letting consequences speak instead of words. People learn fast when behavior meets boundaries. Those who respect you will rise to meet your standards. Those who benefited from your lack of them will fall away. Both outcomes are necessary. Respect is attracted to self-trust. When you trust yourself, you don't seek approval. When you don't seek approval, people sense your independence. And independence is powerful. It says, I am not here to be chosen. I am here to choose. The more you honor your time, the more others will too. The more you protect your energy, the more people will approach you carefully. The more you walk away from disrespect, the less of it you encounter. Not because the world suddenly became kinder, but because you became clearer. You don't need to prove your worth. Your life will do that for you when it's built on alignment instead of acceptance. When your actions match your values. When your yes is intentional and your no is firm. When you stop negotiating your peace for temporary comfort. Respect is the natural result of a life lived with standards. And the moment you stop asking for it, the moment you stop chasing it, the moment you stop explaining why you deserve it, that's the moment it finds you quietly, naturally, and permanently. When you finally begin to honor yourself, life responds in ways you never expected. Not loudly, not instantly, but deeply, subtly, almost reverently. It's as if the world had been waiting for you to take yourself seriously before it did the same. For a long time you may have thought respect, love, and opportunity came from effort alone, from proving, pleasing, and pushing harder. But there is a different kind of shift that happens when your relationship with yourself changes, when you stop negotiating your worth, when you stop showing up halfway for your own life, when you decide that your peace is not optional. The moment you honor yourself, your energy changes, and energy speaks before words ever do. You walk differently, you listen more closely to your instincts. You pause before responding instead of reacting, and people feel it, even if they can't explain it. Life mirrors self-respect with precision. When you stop accepting crumbs, the table changes. When you stop chasing attention, it finds you. When you stop begging for alignment, misaligned things fall away on their own. Not because you force them out, but because they can no longer survive in the environment you've created. At first, honoring yourself feels unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable. You're not used to putting your needs first without guilt. You're not used to choosing rest over explanation. You're not used to trusting yourself without asking for reassurance. There will be moments when you question whether you're doing the right thing. That doubt is simply the echo of an old habit, the habit of abandoning yourself to feel accepted. But stay with it, because slowly, something begins to settle inside you. A calm, a steadiness, a sense of internal safety that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. You begin to feel anchored. And when you are anchored, life meets you differently. Opportunities arrive with less struggle, conversations feel more honest, relationships feel cleaner. You stop explaining why you deserve space and start living like you do. Honoring yourself also sharpens your discernment. You no longer confuse attention with intention. You no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. You no longer confuse familiarity with love. You become selective. Not closed, but clear, and clarity is magnetic. People who are meant to walk with you will feel drawn to this version of you. Not the exhausted one, not the overgiving one, but the grounded one, the one who knows when to speak and when to leave, the one who doesn't beg to be understood, the one who stands firmly in their truth without needing to prove it. And yes, some people will drift away. Let them. They were connected to who you were, not who you are becoming. That doesn't make them villains. It just means the season changed, and you honored it. When you honor yourself, you also honor your time. You stop filling your calendar with obligations that drain you. You start making room for things that restore you. Quiet mornings, intentional work, conversations that don't require armor, space to breathe, space to think, space to grow. And in that space, purpose gets louder. You begin to hear what truly matters to you. Not what impresses others, not what looks good on the outside, but what feels aligned on the inside. And alignment is where fulfillment lives. Not in applause, not in validation, but in knowing that your life reflects your values. The world does not reward people who abandon themselves. It responds to people who are rooted. When you honor yourself, you stop chasing, you stop forcing, you stop performing, you start allowing. And what is meant for you does not need to be chased. It needs to be met. Met with clarity, met with courage, met with the version of you that finally knows their worth. So don't be afraid of becoming unavailable to what drains you. Don't be afraid of saying no without a speech. Don't be afraid of choosing peace over familiarity. That fear is just the doorway. On the other side of it is a life that fits you. Honor yourself, not loudly, not aggressively, but consistently. And watch how life rises to meet you. Because the moment you stop asking the world for permission to value you, is the moment the world begins to treat you like someone who already does. And here is the truth I want you to carry with you. Not just tonight, not just when this feels inspiring, but on the days when choosing yourself feels heavy. God did not create you to live depleted. He did not place purpose in you so others could drain it. He did not give you a voice so you could spend your life explaining your worth. What is meant for you will never require you to abandon yourself to receive it. What honors you will meet you at your standards, not below them. And what leaves when you choose peace was never aligned with your destiny. So walk forward with faith. Faith that your no is just as holy as your yes. Faith that boundaries are not rejection, they are protection. Faith that when you stand in truth, even alone, heaven stands with you. Stop chasing approval, stop overgiving your soul, stop shrinking to stay included. Choose integrity over popularity, choose peace over pressure, choose purpose over people pleasing. Because when you honor the life God entrusted to you, the right doors open without force, the right people arrive without pursuit, and the respect you once searched for meets you quietly, right where you stand. Walk in faith, stand in worth, and never again apologize for protecting the light you were born to carry.